Now, yet another scam. The DAA is urging people not to fall for the latest scam doing the rounds at Dublin Airport. Apparently, realistic accounts have been appearing online pretending to sell off lost luggage. Well, I'm joined on the line now by Eoghan Corry, editor of Air and Travel magazine, and of course, Ardclough resident. Good afternoon, Eoghan.
Good afternoon, Cleva. Yours for €2. What could possibly go wrong?
Tell us about this, Eoghan. People selling off random bags. Where are they getting these bags?
I don't think the bags actually exist. It's basically somebody pretending to be Dublin Airport saying, we have all these lost bags in a big hall and we'll sell them off for €2. And they also have satisfied customers, there's a few of those, and fake queries coming in as well. So it's a little bit more elaborate than the normal guy trying to smuggle his money out of Nigeria. It's something, that they've put a bit of verification in, but Dublin Airport had to go on X, as it's called now, no longer Twitter, and say, don't be fooled. I'm not sure anybody would have been fooled, but they did come on and say, we don't sell lost bags. We do have a process through the website where you can relocate a bag and you must come with valid ID. There's no question of us going to auction with the lost bags. And there were quite a few of those last year, fewer of them this year.
OK, so Dublin Airport do not sell lost bags and they're not trying to clear out their warehouse, as this fake account is claiming. €2 as well is not a huge amount of money, so people might think, sure, I'll give it a go, I'll spend a tenner and you never know what I might get. Obviously, they get nothing.
Well, I don't know if €2 the end price, because I actually didn't rush on myself to try and buy one. I would suspect that once they have your €2, they're going to go after something else. They may even just be looking for your bank account details. It sounds a lot of trouble to go to try and get €2 off a customer. So I would be very, very suspicious that there's something bigger. Dublin Airport's advice, interestingly enough, is to report them to Meta, who own Facebook, and get the post removed. I would have thought that somebody would be interested in actually chasing down who's up to this, or maybe they think it's just too elaborate and too difficult to actually catch whoever is doing it. But there is an upside, and it does bring focus on the lost property in Dublin Airport, and the way that sometimes things get left there for a long, long time. I once dropped a phone in the car park and had to go to the lost property office, and very, very kindly somebody picked it up. It was in the dark, and I dropped my mobile phone, and it did emerge. It fell out of my pocket or something, but I did emerge that somebody had picked it up. And I was given a little tour, an unofficial tour, off the record tour, of the things that are left behind. And there were some fascinating things in that great big store. It's in Aladdin's Cave. The most interesting was somebody left an oxygen tank behind. How can you survive without your oxygen tank? But there's a lot of stuff in Dublin Airport that has taken ages to be reclaimed. And if there's an upside to this, it's brought attention to the fact that don't give up. Things do show up.
OK, well, that's given me a little bit of hope, because back in January I went on a hen to Prague and bought a Child of Prague.
A hen to Prague, I'm scared already, Craven.
Went to Prague, got a little Child of Prague in, the city that makes them or whatever. Came home and anyway, I left it on the plane, and I was going on holidays like the following week again, and I went into Dublin Airport and they were like, yeah, no, we don't have it. So you never know, it still might turn up. So
it still might turn up. It might turn up in another airport as well. My daughter is the world champion at leaving her mobile phone behind, and one of them got left in a seat pocket on a Czech airline. It's funny, we have a Czech team to this, and it did show up after about 3 days in Zurich or somewhere. But they do show up. People tend to, if aircraft work hard for a living, like Saturday's Child, they wake up in the morning, they work hard for a living. Each Ryanair aircraft would take off and land 6 times a day. So they can end up being travelling around the world. Now, the awkward bit from the passengers is it will end up in the lost property of the airport where it's found by cleaners. and sometimes the cleaning is very, very quick, and sometimes it doesn't show up where you've actually lost it. They do show up. A lot of things do show up eventually. Some of them never do.
You're telling me, Eoghan, earlier on that there are a few new routes out today that you're going to tell us about.
This is so exciting. We have a new airline coming to Dublin next year. They're going to do a sort of a lower-cost transatlantic service. We have a bit of competition on both the routes they've announced today, which is JFK to Dublin and Boston to Dublin. It's JetBlue. They're a low-cost airline, not quite the Ryanair, a little bit different model from them. And they already fly transatlantic to London and Paris. But they've announced Dublin today from both Boston and New York. And it should jazz up the market. We've 3 airlines competing on Boston and now 4 competing on New York. And competition, as we both know, Caoimhe, brings down price. It's going to be daily, seasonal, March 13th to September 30. But I'd be very confident that it will go through the winter. It's good news for Irish tourism, and it's good news for anyone popping off to New York. Sadly, not for the Christmas shopping trip. It won't be ready for that. But anyone popping over to New York for the friends and relatives or to go shopping next summer, it's a new service.
Well, it's interesting
from JetBlue
that you say that, because I was actually looking up flights to New York there recently, and I thought they were fairly reasonable, even for, in the next few months. They seem to be not too bad in comparison to previously. Maybe it was just the day that I looked it up, but maybe they know that the competition is coming and they're already dropping the prices.
Not really. The winter prices will come down anyway because the Americans don't travel. The Irish people have a more even-handed approach, but Americans tend to come in a little bit of a rush of about 10 weeks. September is a big month for them. October, they actually come in a little bit later than the traditional school holidays. But it's very uncertain, Caoimhe, because of that terrible conflict in the Middle East, whether Americans will stop booking anywhere. That's tended to happen before. It happened a few times when we'd come. They don't see much of a difference between the Middle East and Europe, and it does stop them travelling. They also tend not to travel very much during election year. Now, where is that going to be relevant to our listeners here? Is that if the aircraft don't fill early, you do get pretty good incentives thrown in. I would expect, if you're travelling next summer, that there will be a pretty good series of seat sales from all the operators on the route, including the new one, JetBlue. But remember, American and Delta also fly to New York. Delta and United also fly to New York, and American have a couple of other interesting routes, including Dallas, which is a fairly new one to them. And we do have 16 different, 20 different cities, 16 Aer Lingus routes to New York next summer. That's a huge lift for an island of our size, and it should mean that prices are pretty good for getting there and getting back. But I would caution people that prices in America are just through the roof. It's really expensive, when you go over there, prices on the ground because of the strong dollar, and it's a bit of a shock when you go out for what used to go out for breakfast and end up paying €60 or something like that. Prices on the ground in America are a little bit higher, but we will get there cheaper thanks to this new route from JetBlue announced today.
Okay, Eoghan Corry, editor of Air and Travel magazine.